A 31-year-old man walks into Facebook headquarters in Palo Alto, California. He's applying for a job. His name is Jan Combe. He's a software engineer with years of experience at Yahoo. He interviews with Facebook's hiring team. They ask him questions. They review his resume. Then they make their decision. Rejected. Facebook doesn't hire him. They tell him he's not a good fit. Jan walks out, disappointed but not defeated. He's been rejected before. He's used to it. Jan Combe grew up in a small village in Ukraine with no electricity and no running water. His family was so poor they relied on government assistance just to eat. When Jan was 16, his mother brought him to California as refugees. They lived in a tiny apartment in Mountain View. His mother worked as a babysitter. Jan swept floors at a grocery store to help pay rent. He taught himself computer programming by reading manuals at a used bookstore. He couldn't afford to buy the books, so he'd just stand there and read for hours. Eventually, Jan got a job at Yahoo as an infrastructure engineer. He worked there for 9 years. But by 2007, he was burned out. He wanted to do something different. He applied to Facebook. They said no. So Jan decided to take a year off. He traveled. He played ultimate frisbee. He thought about what to do next. Then, in 2009, Jan bought an iPhone. He realized something. The new App Store was going to change everything. People were going to use apps for everything. Jan had an idea. What if there was a simple app that let you see your friends' status updates? Just a status app. Nothing fancy. He started building it. His friend Brian Acton, who also worked at Yahoo and also got rejected by Facebook, joined him. They called the app WhatsApp. It was a play on the phrase, "What's up?" At first, WhatsApp was just a status app. It didn't even have messaging. But then Apple released push notifications. Jan realized he could use notifications to send messages, so he added messaging to WhatsApp. Suddenly, WhatsApp became a simple, fast, ad-free messaging app. No clutter, no nonsense, just messaging. It started to grow. Slowly at first, then faster. People loved how simple it was. By 2011, WhatsApp was one of the top 20 apps in the US App Store. By 2013, WhatsApp had 200 million users. By 2014, it had 450 million users. Then, in February 2014, Jan Combe got a call. Mark Zuckerberg wanted to meet. Facebook wanted to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion. Jan couldn't believe it. The company that rejected him for a job was now offering him $19 billion. Jan signed the deal. On the same building where he used to stand in line to collect food stamps as a poor immigrant kid, Facebook bought WhatsApp for $19 billion. Jan Combe, the guy who swept floors at a grocery store and got rejected by Facebook, became a billionaire. This is the story of how rejection became $19 billion in revenge. Let's rewind to 1976. Jan Combe was born in a small village outside Kyiv, Ukraine. His family lived in Soviet Ukraine. They had no electricity, no hot water, no phone. They were extremely poor. Jan's father was a construction worker. His mother was a homemaker. The Soviet government controlled everything. Jan's mother hated it. She dreamed of leaving. In 1992, when Jan was 16, his mother applied for asylum in the United States. They were Jewish, and there was growing anti-Semitism in Ukraine. The U.S. granted them refugee status. Jan and his mother moved to Mountain View, California. His father stayed behind, planning to join them later. But he never did. He passed away a few years later. Jan and his mother struggled in America. They lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment. They survived on government assistance and food stamps. Jan's mother took a job as a babysitter. Jan got a job sweeping floors at a grocery store. He made minimum wage, but Jan was smart. He loved computers. He didn't have money to buy books, so he went to a used bookstore and read programming manuals for hours without buying anything. He taught himself to code. When Jan was 18, he enrolled at San Jose State University to study computer science. But he dropped out. He didn't like school. He wanted to work. In 1997, Jan got a job at Yahoo as an infrastructure engineer. He was 21 years old. Yahoo was one of the hottest tech companies in the world. Jan worked on Yahoo's advertising platform. He learned how online advertising worked, and he hated it. He saw how companies tracked users, collected data, and sold it to advertisers. Jan thought it was an invasion of privacy. He wanted to build something different. Jan worked at Yahoo for 9 years. By 2007, he was burned out. He wanted to leave and do something else, so he quit. He applied to Facebook thinking maybe he'd work there. But Facebook rejected him. His friend Brian Acton also applied to Facebook. Brian was rejected too. Brian famously tweeted, "Facebook turned me down. It was a great opportunity to connect with some fantastic people. Looking forward to life's next adventure." Jan and Brian decided to take time off. They traveled to South America. They played ultimate frisbee. They relaxed, but they were also thinking, what should they do next? In January 2009, Jan bought an iPhone. He was fascinated by the App Store. He saw that apps were going to be huge. Jan wanted to build an app. He had an idea. What if there was an app that showed your status, like at the gym or in a meeting? Just a simple status updater. Jan started coding. He called the app WhatsApp. It was a pun on "What's up?" He launched WhatsApp in February 2009. At first, it was buggy. It kept crashing. Nobody used it. Jan almost gave up. But then, in June 2009, Apple released iPhone OS 3.0 with push notifications. Jan realized something. Push notifications could be used to send messages. He could turn WhatsApp into a messaging app. Jan added messaging to WhatsApp. Now, instead of just seeing your friend's status, you could send them a message. It was simple, fast, no ads, no clutter, just messaging. Brian Acton joined Jan as a co-founder. They put in some of their own money. Brian invested $250,000. They hired a few engineers. WhatsApp started to grow. By 2011, WhatsApp was one of the top 20 apps in the US App Store. It was especially popular internationally. People in countries with expensive SMS plans loved WhatsApp because it used the internet instead of SMS. By 2013, WhatsApp had 200 million users. By early 2014, it had 450 million users. And it was still growing fast. Jan and Brian had built WhatsApp with a very specific philosophy. No ads. Ever. They charged $1 a year after the first year of use. That was it. Jan believed that advertising ruins products. He'd seen it at Yahoo. He refused to let it happen at WhatsApp. Facebook, meanwhile, was watching. Mark Zuckerberg saw that WhatsApp was growing faster than Facebook Messenger. He wanted to buy it. In February 2014, Mark Zuckerberg called Jan Koum. They met. Mark offered to buy WhatsApp for $19 billion. $16 billion in cash and stock, plus $3 billion in restricted stock for employees. It was one of the largest tech acquisitions in history. Jan thought about it. This was the same company that had rejected him for a job 7 years earlier. Now they were offering him $19 billion. Jan agreed. But he had one condition. WhatsApp had to remain independent. No ads. Ever. Mark agreed. On February 19, 2014, Jan Koum signed the deal. He signed it in front of the building where he used to stand in line for food stamps as a poor immigrant teenager. It was symbolic. Jan had come full circle. Jan Koum's stake in the deal made him worth over $6 billion. Brian Acton became worth over $3 billion. The two guys Facebook rejected for jobs were now billionaires. Jan stayed at Facebook for a few years. But in 2018, he left. There were disagreements about privacy and ads. Jan wanted WhatsApp to stay ad-free. Facebook wanted to monetize it. Jan walked away. He gave up over $1 billion in unvested stock because principles mattered more than money. Today, WhatsApp has over 2 billion users worldwide. It's one of the most popular messaging apps on the planet. And it all started because Jan Koum, a poor immigrant who swept floors and got rejected by Facebook, refused to give up. So what happened? Jan grew up in poverty. He swept floors to help his mom pay rent. But he taught himself to code. He didn't wait for someone to teach him. He learned on his own. Facebook rejected Jan for a job. But instead of being bitter, he built something better. And eventually, Facebook paid him $19 billion for it. Jan hated online advertising, so he built WhatsApp with no ads. He stuck to his principles even when investors wanted him to monetize faster. That integrity made WhatsApp different. Jan signed the Facebook deal in front of the building where he once stood in line for food stamps. From refugee to billionaire. That's not just success, that's poetic justice. Jan Koum swept floors at a grocery store. Facebook rejected him. But he built WhatsApp into a 2 billion user platform. And Facebook paid him $19 billion. Because sometimes the best revenge is building something so good that the people who rejected you have to buy it.